Did you know Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is on track to make over $1 billion?
Wow, 1 billion.
Yeah, seriously. And we're not just talking about ticket sales either. It's the merch, the endorsements, the whole shebang. It's honestly amazing to see. So in this deep dive, we're digging into the business savvy of Taylor Swift. Because let's be real, whether you're a diehard Swiftie or just appreciate a good business strategy, there's a lot we can learn from her career. We've got some great sources lined up that dive into her incredible fan engagement, her brand evolution, which, let's be honest, is how she's stayed relevant for almost 2 decades. And we'll even get into some of her bold moves in the world of intellectual property. Speaking of bold, this entrepreneur article we found doesn't hold back, calling her a full-blown business icon, not just a pop star.
Right, and you can't ignore that recent billionaire status either. That's almost unheard of for musicians.
It really is. Okay, so speaking of being a boss, can we talk about Swift re-recording all those albums to own her masters? That was a power move if I've ever seen one.
Definitely a bold move.
For those of us who aren't experts in the music industry, what's the significance of these master recordings anyway?
Well, imagine this. You create something amazing, but someone else owns the original blueprint. You can still sell your creation, but they get a cut of the profits forever. That's basically what master recordings are.
They're like the original, the thing from which all the copies are made.
Yes, exactly. And they hold immense value, both financially and creatively.
So whoever owns those recordings has control over how the music is used and profits from it. That makes sense.
Precisely. And sadly, a lot of artists, especially early in their careers, they sign away those rights without realizing what they're giving up.
Wow.
What Swift did by re-recording, it was brilliant. She took back control of her art and future earnings.
It's pretty inspiring, actually.
Oh, absolutely. It sent shockwaves through the music industry. A lot of artists were like, wait, we can do that.
And speaking of shaking things up, let's talk about Taylor's relationship with her fans. You know, the Swifties.
Oh, yeah, they're hardcore.
Hardcore is an understatement. This entrepreneur article raves about how much she understands fan engagement, like it's something she invented.
Well, she's definitely one of the best at it.
For sure.
Building that kind of fiercely loyal fan base is marketing gold. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll follow her anywhere, support whatever she does.
It's like having a million brand ambassadors, all totally devoted.
Exactly. It's that happy customer is a repeat customer idea, but amplified times 1,000.
Amplified and maybe with a little more glitter. Right?
Ah, definitely. Think about it. The epic concerts, surprise guests, those deeply personal lyrics.
Oh, and don't forget about the gifts.
yeah.
I've heard stories about her sending like care packages to fans or showing up at graduation.
Right, or even weddings. It's crazy. But that's the point. She's mastered this art of over-delivering value. It's not just about the music. It's an entire experience.
And people are all in on the experience. This entrepreneur article made a big deal about how Taylor gets that. It's not just about the product. It's the whole feeling you get, when you connect with a brand.
Exactly. It's about community, belonging even. And when people feel emotionally connected to what you're doing, to what you're selling, to your music, whatever it is, they're not just customers anymore.
They're fans for life. Okay, so that makes me think about Taylor Swift's evolution as an artist. We all remember the country music days, but that shift to pop, it was huge.
Huge doesn't even cover it.
Do you think she could have achieved this level of, like, global superstardom if she had stuck to one genre? I kind of doubt it.
Honestly, it's hard to say. She was already incredibly talented and successful as a country artist.
That's true.
But that being said, her willingness to evolve and adapt, it's definitely played a huge role in her lasting appeal.
So it wasn't just about following her artistic muse. There was a strategic element to it as well.
Oh, absolutely. This is Taylor Swift we're talking about.
Yeah.
She's incredibly strategic with everything she does. It wasn't just, oh, I feel like making a pop album now. This was a calculated decision to, recognize where the music was going and bring her audience along with her.
Just like any good entrepreneur would analyze the market and say, okay, this is what people want. This is what they're responding to.
Exactly. She saw an opportunity to connect with a broader audience, and she went for it, even if it meant pushing boundaries, defying expectations. Honestly, that takes guts. Not everyone can pull off a genre-bending reinvention like that.
No kidding. But she totally did. And look at her now.
It's a good lesson for anyone in any field, really. Taking risks is scary, but sometimes that's where the biggest rewards are.
Speaking of risks, those Taylor's version re-recordings were a pretty gutsy move when you think about it.
Oh, definitely. A lot of people were surprised, but
It takes us back to this whole idea of ownership, though, right?
exactly.
And the Entrepreneur article really hammered that point home.
Hmm.
But I think for those of us who aren't, immersed in the music industry, this whole intellectual property thing can seem a little murky.
It definitely can be.
So help us understand, why were those re-recordings such a big deal?
Well, it all comes down to who owns the rights to that music, who has the legal control over how it's used, copied, distributed, all of that.
Right.
And you might think, well, she wrote the songs, she performed them.
She should own them.
You'd think so. But often, especially early in their careers, artists sign contracts without realizing they're giving away a lot of control.
Oh, wow.
So what Taylor Swift did was basically reclaim ownership of those early albums.
By re-recording them.
Exactly. And that's huge. It shifted the power dynamic back in her favor.
That's a pretty empowering move.
It really is.
So I get that it matters for musicians, but how does this whole intellectual property thing apply to, like, the average person?
It's about recognizing that if you create something, whether it's a song, a painting, an invention, a logo, a business plan, whatever, if it's your unique creation, you want to be able to protect it.
So it's not just about music, it's about any kind of creative work.
Exactly. And the article talked a lot about trademarks and copyrights. Understanding those is super important.
Okay, so break those down for us.
Yeah.
Trademark versus copyright. What's the difference?
Well, think of a trademark as something that protects your brand, like your logo, a tagline, even a product name.
Okay.
If you register a trademark, it prevents others from using something too similar, which could confuse customers or make them think they're buying from you when they're not.
So if I came up with a really awesome name for, like, a nude energy drink, I'd want to trademark that name.
Yes, exactly. It protects your brand identity and prevents others from profiting off your creativity.
That makes sense.
Copyrights, on the other hand, protect original works of authorship, so things like books, music, paintings, movies, even software code.
So if I write a song,
Copyright that song, because then you're the only one who can legally copy it, distribute it, perform it publicly. You have control.
so trademarks are about protecting the face of a brand, and copyrights are for protecting the actual creative output, the work itself.
You got it. And these days, with the internet and social media, it's easier than ever for people to, well, borrow ideas. So protecting your work is more important than ever.
It really is. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about Taylor Swift's career through this lens of intellectual property. She's not just making music, she's building an empire, and she's doing it all on her own terms.
And that's the inspiring part. She's proof that understanding the business side of things, it doesn't diminish the art. It can actually give you the freedom to create and innovate and really own your success.
Absolutely. It's inspiring for anyone, really. Whether you're an artist, an entrepreneur, or just someone with a great idea, you have the power to control your own destiny, just like Taylor Swift.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, on that note, we'll let our listeners ponder that. You don't need to be a pop star to think like a business icon. Until next time.